Hello, everyone listening. I finally got some new Everton shirts, and I was looking forward to talking about it next week. But guess what? Monday, we have some news, and we're part two of the Hinge and Bracket follow up. I'm here with Yan, and also across the park we have Chad. So, who wants to kick us off?
Can we just talk about your new wardrobe? Do we have to?
I mean, I'm not going to go.
I'm so annoyed. Oh my god! I don't know what else who's out there, but it's just you just have to laugh when it because there be no dead period in the world of Everton Football Club. Like they're supposed to be gone and out of our minds for 3 weeks, and instead instead we have
my sweet summer child. Right, okay. Sorry, I've just got to say thank you everyone who's just jumped from a marathon full 90 minutes with with Wes and Robbie and is now over here with us continuing the monathon. And a special shout out obviously to some of our VIP members who make this incredible content.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. Thank you to Becky.
Thank you very much, Becky. I do appreciate you and your support. Right. So, yeah. Your wardrobe.
So, outside of me getting us banned off YouTube for part unattractiveness and part too much skin, I will talk to it. I have the alternate away steak outfit, and then I have a couple polo shirts we'll see throughout the week or weeks. One is the blue steak with the gold kind of armpit trim where they've got that little cut off the side, and then one of the teal polos as well. So
did you go for the Seamus Shamrock shirt? Well,
a lot of people in the US like to say they're part Irish, and I absolutely have no part Irish in me, so I'll leave it to them.
We're all a little bit Irish in the States, mostly.
I'm just laughing at the absurdity of us talking about this and this. So, right. I want to address the elephant in the room, if I may.
What's that? What happened?
Well, I mean, have you guys heard? I don't know. News. Maybe the messages and the telegrams haven't filtered through abroad, but there's been further points deductions.
Really?
In the Premier League.
What?
Because I saw red smoke signals. I thought it was because Liverpool lost yesterday. I didn't know there was something else associated with the red smoke.
This must be Man City that you're referring to. Has to be.
No.
Chelsea?
That's scheduled for 3 weeks next century.
Subject to further review.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, what's actually happened? Well, okay. So the 4 points that the Premier League decided to give back to us.
Yeah.
I think maybe they have like a points deficit, so they decided to then take them from Nottingham Forest.
So what you're saying is we made 10 points between Forest and us.
So wait, when we got when they heard that 6 points was the baseline for a PSR breach, correct? So I'm guessing you must mean that Nottingham Forest got penalized 6 points then.
No, that is an interesting point.
I'm confused.
Well, yeah, me too.
So now, I've heard of something called mitigating factors. There's a website. Is that something I have to do with it?
Maybe there's a news article out there.
Oh. Let me check. I solemnly swear I did not cover any of this. So we have one that I think may cover this.
Just the one?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So an independent commission has applied an immediate only 4-point deduction to Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, but you see, it's done. Look, it's done by like maths, because in the middle there, where it says the relevant threshold, they breached it. 61 million by 34.5, which when you consider that we had 3 years at 100 and then ours was at 19 point. 5.
Okay. Yeah, I can kind of see that at about 33.5, so a little bit lower than 34.5. Wait,
But no,
how are we adding this, Jan? I don't understand where you got your math from on this screen.
no, that's interesting. Maybe I just can't add up. I'm sorry.
Wait,
Any thoughts on this,
are you
Chad?
sure?
Is 6 higher than 4? I can't.
I don't know.
Something doesn't sound right.
Maybe they've been speaking with Sky Sports because then they get to decide whether it's the top 4 or the top 6. So maybe they're interchangeable.
But we don't want a 10 because that would mean we dominate Europe in such a point that the effectiveness of England in Europe doesn't make us interesting anymore. So there's a sweet spot of about 6 to 7 teams that have merit in the Premier League to represent the brand overseas. No?
Right. Right. Sorry. What I will got to say is, I know everyone's probably jumped from the Robbie and Wes show, wanting maybe a bit of a pick me up because there were no silver linings. There are none. And we thought we'd try and start it off with a joke. We do appreciate it. That some people may not have joined. We're trying to do this. But there's no silver lining here, guys. Is there anything like we tried to just find the farcical and it doesn't make sense? Does anybody's maths out there make sense on following any guidelines? Because I don't want to kick it off. Have you guys read any guidelines, or any of the stipulations or the framework for how we were deducted points?
I'm not sure I want to defend the Premier League, but if we're doing silver linings, and if that's premise number 1, a lot of people other than us can play the counting game. So if people decide to spend a certain amount of money and cheat and can compensate with the points penalty and still do well enough, that's been the defense of let's make it incredibly wishy-washy, gray, and you run the risk if you violate. The problem is Everton always seem to be at the wrong end of the stick, subject circumstances. Were Everton kind to the Premier League? Did they give them a back rub? Did they give them permission? Or did they give them warning? Or did they say we're not playing along because Everton were the first to do it? And previous to that, no one thought the Premier League had teeth. So now, of course, Forest can seem kind, work with others, and work with the Premier League because now they realize that you better do it or you're in trouble. So why is Everton in trouble? Maybe. So that was one I had. Yeah. Go ahead.
So I think it's either a case of one of two things. Either the Premier League and Richard Masters are completely ignorant and incapable of finding any consistency within the commissions that they create to hear these cases, or it's incredibly nefarious and they are solely trying to destroy our club. There is a lot of evidence for either side of that coin. So I would love to know what side each of you are on, because you can Premier League and say, how long did our squad have to play, under the cloud of a 10-point deduction? Did that hamper their season? I would imagine so. We have had no resolution to the ownership situation. League. There's an awful lot of evidence here that would suggest that the Premier League have it in for us. The other side is they're incredibly incompetent, and they're incapable of establishing any set of baselines by which to hear. So I would love to hear where you guys are on this.
Can I jump in, Chris?
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, interestingly enough, Chad, I mean, sorry, I'm having a bit of trouble with my mouse. There's some good comments here. I need to buy a new mouse. Apologies, gents. But yeah, I don't know if that's me bringing it up or you guys appreciate it. There are some good comments out there. If you see them. Oh, bugger. And I think it's possible to say that they didn't really know what they were doing. because when you look at it, they followed various different guidelines. You know, there's been a recent, because the UK government has recently approached the Premier League multiple times to cajole, coerce, encourage them to redistribute about 900 million in football monies, income, to the entire football league pyramid, and the Premier League rejected this. Now, for me, maybe I'm using this anecdotally or apocryphally, right? But for me, that flies in the face of the fundamental principle of maintaining the long-standing viability, the integrity, the function, and the profitability, and the potential for success of all clubs across all levels of the Football League. Now, regardless of whether they wanted to pursue this to persecute Everton specifically, well, of course, they had grounds and they went very hard, and it was very punitive in my mind when you look at what they've done here, and when it sets a precedent for how they could punish Chelsea and Man City. So what it smacks of to me is, whether they did it vindictively or not, it's going to be a huge punishment, and they're going to realize, or the hindsight is a wonderful thing. A lot of fans are going to look at it and say, that's too harsh, because what are you going to punish these other clubs like Forest now? And it's what I've said for several months, that it's just going to be ridiculous. And it's going to open the floodgates, because when you set a legal precedent, and when, I can't, it just.
Yeah. And if we want to stir the Graham Potter after last week, what we'd also have to add is that I know I'm loaded with dad jokes. If we want to stir the pot a bit more, all of this is going to change again next year anyway, because they've found a better way to make it harder for the top teams in the league to not waste their money inefficiently compared to everyone else who need to count their books more diligently and compete with less.
Leicester going to get promoted and then have a points deduction under the new system?
No, look at the fiasco. Why not just stop one team getting relegated and one team getting promoted, and just going, just for a season?
Then we'll get our points deductions for the next decade ahead of time. Then we'll just cheat, and everyone else will, and it won't matter for next season, right?
And oh my God, you've set me off on this. What about the whole? It literally is. It's not in ancient history. The breakaway attempt for the Six to join a Super League, right, which would fundamentally alter the very nature of the interplay of European leagues for European football, that leads to World Club, the pinnacle of our or in Everton in Britain and England, the pinnacle of club football in the country. I'll just see one of the comments.
That one here.
The absolute hypocrisy
is just below him. There it is. He's got a fuzzy
the hypocrisy of 6 clubs attempting to destabilize and fundamentally alter the very nature that affects every single club in the pyramid in this country, and it's less than some bloody teams taking sausage rolls on a match day. The fine for it, what was it? It was just pathetic. Sorry.
I'm sure Accrington Stanley will charge Wrexham to make ends meet, right?
Right.
So,
can I ask your guys' opinions without verging into politics, because it seems to be a very political thing, because Rod Ross did point out Philip Carter was, and a lot of other people that set up that were fundamentally present at the inception of the Premier League. They could see that it was going to springboard certain teams off. But look at sports in other countries, American football, hockey, basketball, the way that
any American league.
Sorry?
Any American league for that matter.
Yeah. And how the drafting works. Do you guys want to discuss that? Because I know that you have different systems of how that's done.
No, I think what you're trying to point to is it's called supply side economics, and essentially it's breaks for the wealthy with the hope that it trickles down, as what we have often heard in the States, that it'll trickle down to the rest of us. And the issue with that is there's a little thing called greed, and it turns out that if you actually give wealthy people more money. They just hoard it for themselves and then buy toys like Premier League clubs and yachts and the like. So it's been
and Everton kits.
and, and Everton kids. No, but you could talk to any economist, and it has widely been disproven that supply-side economics works in any way whatsoever. But we have it here with our football pyramid in England, and it's fundamentally broken because now there is no way that top level within the pyramid whatsoever.
So I will also add something that I think for a lot of people around the world that makes the Premier League and football an interesting sport to watch is the fact there are consequences for being poor. You go down, you lose money, and there's a risk involved. The unfortunate scenario in every sport, even in the US, has that. There are certain teams that find a way to stay at the top. But the big thing on how at least I'm more of a baseball guy, but I've kind of lost love for the Angels recently. But if you spend over a certain amount of money on your team in a salary cap, those greedy people that you talk about that have all the money, they have to pay taxes. They don't like paying taxes, or they're really committed to winning. And then that may as well be a financial penalty for competing, but then it's known up front and it's done immediately. So, but truly doing drafting in the same way, I'm not sure is right. Because do we really want to say the next Phil Foden goes to, I don't know, National League 2 South bracket, or like Scunthorpe or someone gets the next left Phil Foden or something, right? Like, so there's a certain level of that I'm not sure we want to go to with the breadth and that it's in an international game. You can't pool it correctly.
I'm not necessarily, I'm not naively suggesting something that's not fit for purpose, because that's there. The draft seems to be inherently, like NFL draft. It's inherently reflective of it's part of the whole process of how the high school and college, and then you do that, and it's just part of how it's done. I wouldn't suggest a similar thing in redistribution of players for in British football, but look even in Europe when you get like B teams that play in lower leagues, and then they have the players up, and there's an interplay there, and they loan, and but we don't. I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that it seems ridiculous that if Chad had a business that generated a turnover of 1 million, and Chris, you had a business that generated 100 million, right? Well done. Sorry, Chad. Right? People might say, "Oh, socialism, heavy-handed government, all this kind of stuff," right? But we're talking about the Football League, and we're talking about equality for all fans and protecting the sanctity and the potential and all that. Now, so if you go out and then you have a budget to then by all the people, all the staff that have gone through the training in your business, that have gone through all the top universities, and you pay them, you sign on bonuses and all that. And Chad, you're like, well, I can't. I'm sorry. I have to get like the dropouts and minimum wage and all that kind of stuff. And you say, oh, yeah, but actually Chad really could win an award this year at the national, whatever it is you do convention. No. It's inconceivable that it's like a mum and pop corner shop competing with Amazon, and when you try to put that in a football league, it doesn't work.
Yeah. You can pull yourself by your bootstraps so many times, and that's the skill that the others don't need after a certain point.
Across any business. Across any business, this analogy applies. The smaller enterprise, the mom and pop shop, the little guy can always have a breakout year, can always have an innovation or a product that just takes off. But what happens if you're a little guy? You get acquired, or you get bought out, or someone steals something out from under you. And we see
your tech or your staff or your poach. Yeah.
You become part of the next conglomerate.
There's an entire system in place to keep you as that little guy and to continue to enrich the wealthy. And we see that here with our football. I can give you this example. We have a 14-year-old in the States who, by some outlets, he has been called the most talented young player in the world. His name's Callum. I can't recall. He's in the Philadelphia Union's academy in the MLS. Man City playing in the States for a couple more years before he makes the move over to Europe, where he will then fold into to be a part of Man City. Different than when we were forced to sell Ishi Samuels Smith. I'm going to butcher that name, but he was our top prospect in our academy. We had to sell him to Chelsea for $4 million in the offseason. The system is in place to keep us down and to keep Chelsea, Man City, Man United, Arsenal, to keep them there because they generate the most profits, the most eyeballs on television for the Premier League. And at the end of the day, that's all they and their corporate partners care about.
Because no. I know Chris is going to go back to that, right? And that at every juncture, it seems as if football, the Premier League, is the epitome of football in England, is being cultivated to become a marketable product, theatrical, for highlights, for clips on the internet, for controversy, for wonderful moments of brilliant play, and of like, oh, look at this pass, this build up. Yes, there's always going to be beautiful moments, but the drama of oh, there's going to be longer extra time here, and we're going to use VAR, and then we're going to change this rule and this rule, and it's like, never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good, Jan. I will add one more point, and then I might go in a different direction with it. So we talk about this in the US too, but if you're a small organization, when it comes to lawyers and protecting your own interests, it's a lot harder to go after those that may have done more crimes, but there's a lot of time and effort to prove it. And I'm very curious, based on how I've read some of the statements here from the Premier League, that basically say Everton made it difficult and you're going to get punished for it.
But we didn't. We approached them. You can see in the documents of the appeal.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the Everton, delay of the original is what they're kind of picking off on.
But Everton set the process set the standard throughout the entire process. Nottingham Forest saw that 6 points was the baseline. So what did they say? What did they do? You can see that they decided to immediately work with the Premier League and say, we will not appeal this in any way, have leniency on us. And what happened? Because they saw what was already put in place, the standard that had been set by Everton and their appeal process. Richard Masters in the Premier League didn't dragged out process that could potentially go into the end of the season. They wanted to get this done, and they're going to deal with us now, and we'll see what that process looks like.
But to a certain extent, so did Everton. Everton admitted guilt in the findings, but tried to explain, we didn't intentionally do this because we sought your advice. We didn't want to fall foul of them. You've subsequently said that the reason why we fell foul because it was due to interest or loan associated costs and payments of loans, which you then said. You initially said it wasn't going to count. Then you said now we're being penalized because it does. And then they're going to change the rules so that it no longer does. So what does it like? Hang on a second. If you decriminalize something, all the people who are in prison serving a sentence for a crime that you've decriminalized have their sentences commuted. So I don't understand how the very nature of the quantifiable figures that pushed us over the limit, they're now going to change the rules so that it no longer applies to any club. As far as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong. Now, it takes the fucking piss. Sorry.
Not that different than, hey, everything must go. Let's sell all our DVDs at Blockbuster before we go digital. And there's this scramble on a change of system, and everything just seems a little wild. The problem is, like normal, Everton are just always the bad luck guinea pig. But I wanted to bring this up for you guys on talking with me here and everyone listening. The other point when Chad was talking about the end of the goal is to get this over and done with, but the way it's been described through the Athletic, which I took this snip from, that Forest have 7 days to notify if they intend to appeal, but they have 14 days to do the appeal. And then, as of now, they're penciling May 24, 5 days after the end of the season of that match week 38, where everyone plays at the same time, so everything's got consistency. We still have that 5 days after the end of the year. So if we're rewarding early, prompt Nottingham Forest, it didn't work, does it? Doesn't look like it actually had the intended effect. If you're truly rewarding completion at match week 38.
It's police interview interrogation tactics.
Mhm. Why doesn't the club just sue the league? Why? There's a case. I'm not a lawyer, but
point
there's certainly a
deduction for
case.
the inconvenience of not complying with the league by trying to sue them. You know, like they'll come up with a new rule that we weren't abiding. There's a really long-winded description here, and if it gets too long and you guys think I'm waffling too much, please go ahead. But I wanted to read this because I think it describes the subjectivity of a decision, and this is one that I snipped from the Echo today. So, the Premier League submitted that this comparison is fair. It is appropriate to measure the excess by the reference to the reduced threshold applicable to Forest. Okay, applicable. Explain, please. And it is fair to compare it with Everton, even though a higher threshold was applicable to Everton. Why? Sorry, I'm just adding some subjectivity in. To do otherwise would undermine the rules. What rules? Which would deliberately apply a reduced threshold in respect of seasons spent in the English Football League, which have rules that Premier League struggles with. The extent to which the profit and sustainability rules threshold has been exceeded in absolute terms, regardless of its level in a particular case, will always have a correlation with the improper sporting advantage that has been gained. Quantify that, please, because we were pretty poor the last 3 seasons. They stayed up because of it. The starting point,
and we pretty much continued to sell some of our key or main players as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
right.
And we did not delay like they did with Brennan Johnson, sporting advantage. The starting point when considering sanction and before mitigation of such points must therefore be higher than 6 points imposed on Everton. Okay, that sounds cool. That's what we were expecting. In the Everton appeal, at one exercise undertaken by the appeal board was to start from a minimum of 3 points and work up to a 6-point figure. That didn't happen, did it? They wanted 12, they ended up with 10, and we wondered why. And thank you for our support staff for adding that in here. In the case at hand, the commission considered whether there were any additional factors that should be taken into account. Subjectivity, I might add, the unique position and or the reasons for the excess. We are building a stadium. We have a really poorly run...
an exceptional cost. An exceptional cost.
Over budget.
I wouldn't mind. It's not normal operating costs for anyone out there who's ever, financially minded.
Yeah. The conclusion was that this did not, nor were they mitigating factors, the above, in line 210 and 213 that we're not going to bother to bring up here. And the only factor driving Forest up the scale will be the size of the breach. Okay. So shouldn't we therefore be matching them and then we go above? Didn't work out that way, did it? It was bigger than Everton's, but both were in the significant breach band. So what is the difference? Why would one be worth more than the other? However, there was no additional consideration about incorrect information being provided to the Premier League, as Everton had. Now, we know that our name is dragged through the mud, and they said we didn't act in bad faith, but they're using it against us for Forest benefit here. The Commission does not know how the 3 extra points were arrived at by the appeal board for Everton. Oh, look at that. There's points flying around. Subjectivity. Rules? Oh, we're being independent. Cool. Was it the same commission? I don't know yet, but that'll be really interesting. Maybe that comes out in a bit if it's the same commission, guys. The commission does not know how the 3 extra points arrived, but some part of those 3 points must, clearly, because it's different, relate to the provision of incorrect information. Forest breach, not its losses, the commission is concerned with the breach of PSR threshold, was larger than Everton's, and as a result, was lower. So, a bit of a hyperbolic rant, but I think just that's the kind of stuff that really drove me nuts with this whole thing. Subjectivity, just arrive. And even to Forest's point, they should be frustrated. We're just slightly more frustrated, and we both deserve to be frustrated as fan bases. And Forest fans, I've listened to a few YouTube groups like Forest TV today, and they support us and say that none of us should be getting point deductions.
it's ridiculous. I mean, when you look at what, for example, something that has been quantifiable and proven with a punishment. We don't need to go into all the details, but everyone watching, I assume, is going to be vaguely familiar with the Chelsea situation when they had a transfer ban. And no, well, okay, all that,
flag.
Yeah, sorry. And the issue that they've got a track record for it with the amortization of contracts and spreading them out so that it becomes difficult to talk about player values and depreciation and costing over over a certain period. You need to comply, and then they've shown that they flagrantly it's like the argument between tax evasion and tax avoidance. Like, one is legally wrong, the other one is ethically or morally wrong, but possible to do. And footballers do it. Like, for instance, setting yourself up as Aussie Chris Incorporated, and you take a wage from that, so that they pay Aussie Chris LLC or PLC or whatever for your appearance, all this kind of crap.
So I feel related to Pep Guardiola right now, is what you're telling me, and getting some side kitty.
Yeah, but there's all these ways of doing it. Chelsea have done it, and they essentially didn't suffer any real consequences. I mean, okay, what's Abramovich or the selling the club or some poor decisions and the fiasco conveyor belt of managers, they could be heading in the same direction as us. But is anyone going to go over their books with a fine-tooth comb?
Because we know City is more complicated. Chelsea, they found a
We've
loophole.
been told.
Sorry.
We don't.
Well, the thing is, the reason why, I suspect, I don't know, maybe someone in the comments can back me up on this, but the reason why I strongly suspect is they tend to give up on pursuing things if there's not been a fuss kicked up and there's a change of ownership, because then it gets wiped clear. Even though obviously you can have activities that don't comply with regulations and or laws or whatever, that they could investigate. A lot of the time they'll turn a blind eye to it if it's not massive and there's new ownership. Doesn't seem fair, really, does it? Sorry, just
no.
No.
But yeah.
All right, well, to the table. Where do we have? What are we looking at for the rest of the year?
And in other news that is slightly less morbid, we have gained points on our Premier League opposition.
Yay!
So the scroll is getting rid of Sheffield down the bottom, but I suppose we can accept spot 20 isn't relevant at the moment. But now, Nottingham Forest had that with that 4-point deduction, dropped from being above us on goal difference down to 18th place with goal difference in hand, but a point behind Luton. Everton with a match against Liverpool that I expect isn't going to do too well for us anyway. But even if we lose that, we have three points in hand on Luton, and funny enough, almost no goal difference anymore. We lost all that recently.
I mean, but surely, I suppose the interesting thing is, looking that we've got that game in hand, I am mindful of the fact that obviously it is a game and we've got many or 10 to play, but it is the game. Yeah.
So right there.
Yeah. I don't look. It's essentially not a game in hand if we're going to talk specifically about the derby game, because I don't have much hope of walking away with many brackets points.
We can get a point at home. That's a victory of a plain defensive dice ball at home. That's it. Point.
But would you by any chance have a resource there for perhaps the remaining comparative fixtures for, say, Forest, Luton, and Everton? Or
oh, no way!
Oh,
it's magic.
It's almost like Chris came prepared. And the final match is hidden by the scrollers. So
You have to build it up more next time. You have to pretend like you're going back into your lab and throwing something together. And then
I just type really aggressively on the side and
yeah, just throw in some random chemicals into different pots. Yeah.
Yeah, just like the bag of what's your bag of treats, Jan? And
Oh,
talk out some results.
they went M&M Crispies. Yes, I had like a
Yes.
kilogram bag of M&M Crispies. Oh,
So I did this one. It's a combination of a bunch of screenshots screenshotted together to show that Everton have a slight advantage on points, but were pretty similar in goal difference across the teams. Liverpool's match is not in here, but will be rescheduled. If we assume we get nothing from that and our goal difference remains about the same, then Everton are at 25 points. Ignore the Liverpool match. This is the rundown to the rest of the season. So even still, we have all the opportunities in the world here.
I would just like to
make
remind anyone watching as well that we will touch on a point that Rod Ross beautifully reminded, just twisting the knife that little bit more.
Oh,
And my
yeah.
mind wants to keep starting. Yes.
So I will also factor in double jeopardy can be duplicated. But if we comply like they did, do we get the same penalty? Is it 4? Or is it because it's even less? Is it 3? I would love to see it.
It can't be treated as equals. With our breach is 2 of the years of our breach were just accounted for in the last penalty. Am I correct in that?
I think it was so 2 of them were, but the problematic 2 still remain. And I think the key problem here is the assumption of the loans that aren't to a bank, to Farhad Mashiri personally, are still stored in that rolling 3-year cycle for a second year running, and for next season they won't be factored in. I think that's the kicker here. Does that sound right, Jan? Or have I missed something?
I honestly don't know, but listening to it, it sounds like it could go one of 3 or 4 ways, and you just don't know. And as we kick this off, maybe we're going full circle. Just no matter what happens, it just seems like it's always the worst possible outcome for us. So,
we'll simplify the top line. If you ignore that Luton, Everton, and Forest have different points, because Everton may well have another deduction, and we have about the same goal difference at this point.
So if we just say it's down to these matches and just chalk off the points that we've got, because any advantage could.
Yeah, that's a safer assumption. Yes.
Yeah. So what are we going to do? A little prediction thing of how we think these matches are going to turn out?
Well, going off of strength of schedule, Luton has the hardest fixtures to play, it would appear. Spurs, West Ham, even Fulham.
Yeah. I'd argue that playing us being away and Luton being at home is probably better than us being at home at this stage.
Yeah, Luton have started to not make home field an advantage either. Because, I think for Luton, maybe they get... Oh.
Sorry to interrupt. Quick shout out. Thanks for joining us, Callum. Do appreciate you coming on here. And, this stream and the mentality within Follow Everton camp is very much, it's not anti-Forest, it's anti-Premier League and the hypocrisy. Just because we're angry at the points deduction for you doesn't mean that we want you to have more points deducted. It just seems that it's unfair that we had so many when, they don't know what they're doing. But thank you. And I hope that we both will stay up as well. Because,
And Peter just brought up, don't we have to play Liverpool again? The answer is yes, but because it's a rescheduled fixture, it didn't align properly on the screenshots that I grabbed. So that's why I made the comment.
Didn't look nice.
It wasn't convenient.
Liverpool.
Yeah, because somewhere around the match of Brentford or around the Everton Sheffield fixture, we'll have a double, and that'll get really interesting because a midweek derby just doesn't sound right, does it, Jan? Or is that better to just get it out of the way and stay late at work one day and hope the results go away?
Right. I'm going to say something. and it would be. I don't know. I've always felt that there's something very special about evening games, and there's something very special about midweek evening games. Obviously, they're always evening games. And, obviously I didn't grow up with it, but we don't have the era of, a match and then a match the next day and then 1-2 days later, like around Christmas and the daft kind of stuff that actually happened. So there's almost a different feel to it. It's not the stereotypical, get up Saturday lunchtime, have a few pints and all that. There's something magical about Goodison under the lights. And so I'd like to think, I'd like to imagine that it could be possible, that it could be some sort of magical turning point. And no, I'm going off into cloud cuckoo land. Rescue me.
No, I love the optimism. It maybe this break to Portugal, aside from Dyche smacking the shit out of Patterson, whatever it was, maybe this is exactly what the club needs right now. And hopefully by the time they come back, this is all old news. They can focus on Bournemouth and start playing some of the best football of the season. I don't know.
Well, Bournemouth is the closest to Portugal, isn't it? Temperature-wise?
Sorry?
I
was going to
guess.
say, is Bournemouth the closest in temp? For the UK, wouldn't Bournemouth be the most warm weather of the location? So they're really preparing for Bournemouth. That's all I'm saying.
They're trying to get acclimated to the climate of the South Coast.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. March anywhere in the UK in March is a little bit nippy.
Okay. Doesn't matter.
Oh, it's not.
It's Portugal. Maybe the northern part of Portugal in the mountains. Maybe.
Oh, I always thought it was like Dorne. Is it not? Is it not Dorne from in Westeros, where Game of Thrones fans? No.
Oh,
okay. Never mind.
Okay.
Yeah,
so vaguely. Take point in stride.
But
never mind. That fell on deaf ears.
The South Coast. Well, yeah. Okay. The South Coast is nice and sunny. Look. Honestly, everything I say is in joke. Please don't take this seriously, yada, yada, yada. But I swear they went to Portugal because of the decriminalized relaxed drug laws. Because if there's any group of people that need to go down a K-hole and find themselves, it's our squad.
Yeah.
Because
now, to that point, a hair follicle test would only work for Sean Dyche if he shaves his beard.
And eyebrows.
All of a sudden, Michael Keane is bald. Comes back. They've all got the Dyche look. Oh, boys.
Maybe he's worth it. Maybe it's ketamine. Oh, God. Right.
Finding Madeline McCann Part 2. Let's go. All right.
How is all this being portrayed in foreign media then? Because obviously you've looked at the Echo and various things like this, but how has it been portrayed internationally with, for instance, 777 or the Premier League? Because there's a huge rise in MLS and now Saudi and other leagues around the world that are trying to promote. So you can see that is this a symptom of a dying Premier League? I don't know. There you go.
The 777 issue is unique only because they are a small financial institution. New York Times or the Washington Post, maybe it was the Wall Street Journal. They've reported on their credit downgrading or things like that. And there's often a story, they're in talks to acquire Everton Football Club, and but it's not the basis of the story is not that Everton's prospective owners are dealing with this. So our sports media is very different than our news media. I think we're probably seeing a lot of the same things from a sports media standpoint, especially since the Athletic you know, ESPN, some of the other outlets, they don't seem to cover it as much, only when major news breaks. But it's most financial institution status of 777 being so murky, and then just questions being raised about their own viability as a company, and what, you know, what that means for them, and of course the lawsuits that we've seen now pop up as well. There's been some reporting on that. What are you getting some of that same reporting around some of their financial issues?
To be honest, I've avoided reading about it because when I've read what I have read, and when I have read the articles about it, it frustrates me, and it just adds more fuel to the fire of me sitting here feeling impotent rage and at the whole situation, you know. And it's not the sort of unfairness of a bitter blue or throw my nose out. I'm thinking of all the fans that lose out on the joys, the roller coaster that is football. Whereas if you imagine what football is becoming, it's like Disneyland. It is, where you go and you can only really have a good time if you buy a fast pass or you get a multi-day thing. And if you don't have very much money, then you're going to be there queuing up all the time. Yeah.
In regard
it's
to
frustrating. Yeah. By the way, so thank you everyone for joining us for this second show, Monathon, which is actually we've got a phone in. Join us, because, well, cheer us up, please. Tell us a joke. Maybe you could differentiate. You could help me out here, because I think I need to present something. Maybe this is a little clip that Ryan can clip and send to his contacts in the right. How do I?
You're trying to post something, Jan?
I am trying to. I'm trying to put a picture up on here.
So there is a overlay section in the brands. You can go in there and add it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Right. Nope.
And in the meantime, this is a great time to thank our contributors. We have over 300 people watching. So again, for those watching on Twitter, it's hard to follow us unless you go onto YouTube to like and subscribe. But for those that are interested, please do so. For everyone else on Facebook and YouTube, like and subscribe. And for those that are interested in being a little bit more involved, we have the ability through YouTube to donate £1 a month if you can't afford 3 for a limited time only, thanks to a post from Ryan this weekend. But everyone else, really appreciate you guys tagging along. It's hour 3 of this Monathon, as Jan said. So thank you everyone for joining us on a wonderfully, you said cold March Monday, right? In
Well,
UK?
It's not cold. It's not cold for you, is it?
I mean,
it's cold. It's cold here. You're in Arizona, so you're probably quite warm.
Yeah, we had a hailstorm and everything. It's probably about 10 degrees Celsius, maybe, with wind chill and rain.
Maybe about the same. Right. So the clippable moment. I don't know whether I'm putting myself in the firing line for slander here, but well, whatever we do, right? Just in case anyone's curious out there and needs some clarification, because I know it's a very confusing time, but for anyone also that's involved in the Premier League, the Appeals Commission, I'd just like to point out. Oh, sorry, goodness!
Oh God! I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. Hold on.
This is an elbow, and this is. Oh, look! It's Richard Masters
with authority.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Just in case, because apparently can't tell the difference. Okay. So the phone in for anybody curious is gonna come up here. Oh my God, it's on a ticker. Right. No, guys, it's just what's going to happen then if we do get another points deduction? And did we go through those? Do you think we've got an easier fixture run? Because okay, we play Newcastle. Yeah, all right, there we go. I was going to say Bournemouth. You could say it's a winnable game, but they're doing all right. Newcastle's tough. I mean, we're looking in trouble until we get to the last sort of 4 or 5 games, aren't we? It's going to look like a bit close again.
Yeah. What worries me is that if we get hit with another deduction to the psyche of this side, they've already started to look like a mentally fatigued team, a mentally weak team. I wouldn't have said that months ago. Even if it's 2, 3, 4 points, I hate to think what that does to that dressing room and how that impacts the results out there on the pitch. I worry that anything, it's almost Jenga board. You pull one more piece out and that whole thing is going to come tumbling down. I'm worried that an additional deduction might be the death of us, but I hope not.
Yeah. Now, what I imagine is if we're going to get a points deduction, it'll happen before the decision for 777.
Well, that was supposed to be this week, was it not?
I've heard that too, but they can also say no. But kind of to Jan's point that with Chelsea, the new ownership come in and they don't get away scot-free, it wouldn't shock me if they time those two in such a sequence that Everton have to be accountable for a points deduction because it was released prior to a new ownership model coming in. So I expect maybe 777 get blocked this week. Points deduction comes in 3 weeks. New ownership comes in 6. Something like that. I know it's pessimistic, but I'm not sure. Yeah. There's something to that for me.
It's just.
Is there any credibility? A minority interest going to that Iranian oil CEO. Did you see this story? He was interested in selling a minority stake to an Iranian. Yeah, he's the CEO of like an Iranian oil company. Am I making this up? But I
don't know, but it sounds
high or dreaming.
Bonkers. We've been joined by regular Peter Duggan and somebody I don't recognise, but thanks for joining us. We'll get you on one at a time if that's okay. Cool. Are you doing this? Yeah, you go. Go on.
Yeah, I was going to. So I know we had Peter on the last one. So why don't we have Gary first, and then we can add Peter back on right after. Hello, Gary.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, mate.
Yeah, you're coming through.
All right. I've been commenting.
Oh, Gary Coffee Bum.
Yeah.
This is the Gary.
Oh, that's you. Okay, mate.
Yeah. So
how you feeling?
I'm all right. This is the first time I've been on. I don't really know what to say.
Say whatever you want, mate. It's all right. We're having a bit of a moan.
Well, I think 4 points wasn't that bad for him. I think they got off lightly. And if we get the same, if we get off lightly, I'd be happy.
But do you think that we?
What is lightly the second time for you, Gary?
2.
Yeah.
Would you settle for 2?
Yeah,
I would take 2. I would take 2 right now.
Because they've already done it. I think they might just say, "Oh, we can't do it to them again. We can't go over 4, so." They might do that.
Just, I mean, do you think that we're really going to face that, or it's just going to be more of a scare tactic? Do you think that it's going to be brought up and because, I mean, the issue is it possible that they could penalise us for 6 points? Which is the minimum, right? Am I right in saying that the minimum is the sort of benchmark?
They gave a minimum of 3 today, so that's not the minimum. They've just changed it.
Right. So, but then that becomes confusing for me because then I wonder if there's any grounds. Then do you think there's any reason that they could, or any grounds for them to say, well, we'll give them the 6 and the 4 we took off previously. would count for that. So then they end up only giving us 2-point deduction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a bit like it's a bit like I don't know how they've got the cheek to do it. Like it's like they haven't done it to anyone else. You know what I mean? Apart from Nottingham Forest, which have got off lightly with 4, which was worse than ours.
It's,
Yeah. If the thinking was, and I know going back to the subjectivity of that quote, I'm not sure if you saw it, Gary, where he sarcastically talked about the inconsistencies, but if the second time we were more forthright than the first time, then we should be in a similar position to Forest this time, so we shouldn't get 6, and we were probably under, so we should be less than Forest this time.
Yeah, because theirs was worse than ours the first time, and we got worse punishment.
Yeah,
and we approached the league.
Yeah.
Hey, Gary, in a previous comment, you said that they could feasibly win all 10 of their last fixtures. How many wins do you see?
All of them.
I want whatever you're on right now, Gary.
Yeah, you're drinking something stronger than coffee, Gary.
Gary went to Portugal.
Like the way I think it is, like they've been saving it up. They've been saving all the goals and everything up, and they're going to spend them all in the last 10 games.
DCL's been holding back on us.
Explosion of XG just
it's been
the world.
You know, when something's been building and building and building and building and then just explodes.
Yeah,
like Brighton.
That's what Gary is expecting.
He's like a cat playing with a mouse for its food. Yeah.
Or
could it also be
those rockets you used to make as a kid, where you'd like pressurize them and then
Mentos in the Coke bottle?
Yes, the only trouble is when they explode, they're no use afterwards.
If Beto just come to life and says, "Look at this, look at this." You put maybe something to do with when they're playing pool and they play really rubbish, and people think they're rubbish, and then they take all the money off of them,
like a ringer.
Yeah, maybe that's what our players are.
Guys, I'm gonna have to nip out for like 2 or 3 minutes. Just look after the dog and make a drink. Just let her out and stuff because she's whining in the background. It's lovely to have a chat with you, Gary. If you're still here when I come back, but sorry, I'm not dashing on you, mate. Sorry, the dog's just whining and whining.
All
right, Gary. What are your thoughts on Dyche taking the? What do you think about that? It needed break or necessary to get away from the distractions of being at Finch Farm? What were your take?
I think it's good that they've gone on holiday, but it's a shame we didn't go with a draw or a win, isn't it? It's still on your mind, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we Man United, it's still sort of in the back of your mind thinking, Man United, we lost to them, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I think the worst game was Brighton when we had that we had Brighton, we had it. And then all we had to do is see the last 9 minutes out. That would have been 3 points. That would have took us. Give it daylight, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because Gary, they've done that to us twice this year. The first one we were holding on strong. We're up 1-0, and a poorly blocked. What's his name again? Karumatoma cross off the thigh of Ashley Young, awkwardly squibs over Pickford's hands, and then an actually good goal by Dunk, but we've let 2 leads slip against Brighton this year in very similar fashion.
Turn them into wins, and that's, you're like, I don't know, 2 or 3 places up, and you don't care, do you? But I don't know. Before the points deduction, we were scoring, not caring, weren't we? We just before the points. Or was it after? I don't know.
It was right. It was right after. It was like that was the response to the initial 10 is when they started playing their best football to this point.
Yeah, we had that spell where we beat Brentford and Burnley and somebody at Crystal Palace, I think, and when you're scoring and there's no pressure on, you just score, don't you?
Yeah. Gary,
Yeah.
do you think it was that Onana pen that started the undoing? What do you track it back to?
Well, maybe you can, but I took pens at school, and it's not as easy as you think. The goal's massive, but you that sod's law in it that you miss it. Do you know what I mean? It's one of these things with England. We always lose penalty shootouts, but I don't blame them, because if you get onto them about it, like if I start being negative, if just thinking negative about Onana, it probably gets into his head, and he's like, "Oh, is it all because of me?" When no, it ain't, because we've all missed and shit. So
Yeah,
Hey,
and I think
hey,
that's always the problem.
Hey Gary, there's someone else that we have to get to as well that's been waiting to get on. Can you leave us with something optimistic or positive so we can feel a little bit?
evening games. The run that we're on, they were all evening games. Well, the games that we've won, most of them been evening games.
Okay. So you're feeling good about the derby then?
Well, maybe not that game. Let's just forget about that game. The Lutons, the Nottingham Forest, the Sheffield United, the Burnley's. What's the other one we're playing? Bournemouth. They're all winnable games in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
We should be winning them easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Indeed.
hopefully that weather in Portugal makes the trick. And Gary, really appreciate you coming on, and maybe we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Cheers. Bye.
All right. See you, mate.
See ya. All right. And we have Peter coming back for round 2. How's it going?
What's up, Peter?
Not much difference. Those are winnable games. Bournemouth is a winnable game, in my opinion. Some of those evening games are winnable, aside from the shite, obviously. I think we'll mull that one over. But yeah, I would say if we come back from Portugal and we don't look like we've changed anything for the better against Bournemouth, sorry lads, but as I said on the previous one, Dyche has got to go if that happens. If he comes back from Portugal and gets that team playing for a 0-0 against Bournemouth at Vitality or whatever it's called, in a relegation fight, that is the biggest sign that a manager has completely lost his mind. And I really wouldn't continue with him any further if that ends up being the case. But if he gets a win, I would say he needs to persist with whatever elements of positivity that he's inducing. But honestly, mate, I have to be honest, I didn't see the point in this Portugal trip. I don't get it. I mean, what exactly is Dyche's plan for going to Portugal? Is he thinking like, oh, well, I'll make him feel better with a bit of sunshine? Fuck off. Who cares? Who fucking cares what the weather's like? It doesn't matter where you take them. Just get them on the training ground.
Mm-hmm.
My thoughts on that is, and I know it might be, I'm well aware that it could be very touchy-feely, softly. They're doing exactly what they want away from that. It could be one of those exercises where any of the following is true. Like no partners, or bring your partners in a separate thing and we all have big meals together. It could be like call your things, or it could be team building stuff during the morning, or it could be, spas, or just no social media or no phones, all things like this. And it could be potentially because it's been brought up in press conference after press conference. And in my mind, Everton are inept as an organisation and a business. We're feckless, we're inept. We're self-defeating, but surely we are not that stupid to not either have someone on staff or employ someone who's doing some sort of sports mentality, coaching, positivity, something empowering and self-belief. And because they're up shit creek, they lost their paddle several seasons ago. We've lost a compass. We've lost paddles. We've gone down offshoots. We are literally at breaking point where we're already in a relegation scrap, potentially facing a second points deduction. And you're telling me that they're not going to employ someone to try to do something. Now, they should have them full time, and it shouldn't be just Portugal. But if that's a start, it's a start. That's what I hope. That's really what I hope. I'm probably wrong.
Well, it could be anything, couldn't it? I mean, it doesn't matter who they have on the staff. Well, no, actually, correction, it does matter who they have on the staff. I mean, I've been opposed to, the people we've been employing at the academy for years. I mean, I get that a bunch of them are former Everton players like Unsworth, Stubbs, Big Dunk, all these ex-players, but
Now,
I mean, come on, what? Yeah. I mean, come on, what have they got in terms of experience that justifies their picking to be put on the job to say, oh, I can develop young players and set them up to go on that pathway to become Premier League players? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, speaking of the pathway, we've broken down that entire conveyor belt as well. We've talked about in this show and other ones about young players that we've sold, but there's nobody in our first team that has come through the ranks at Everton.
Did you hear what I said about Sims on the previous video before?
We should have kept him.
Yeah, we should have kept him and sold Calvert-Lewin. That way we would have actually covered our FFP losses. I can't believe
we'd have had 45. Yeah, we'd have had 40, 50 million for him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the other point to make.
No, go on, Chris. Sorry.
DCL being injured as much as he was, even if he could score. Now, the other problem, so his value wasn't that good. Now he's fit and he can't score, so it's equally problematic. But that's the other thing. If you have an injured player, their value isn't as good as we wanted them to be. That's what I was going to say.
He did save us. He did save us under Lampard, though. Because he scored that goal against Palace. He played his part in saving us. So I'm pretty sure his value could have still been, not so much around 50, but I guarantee you he could have got at least half of 50 for him.
What would we... Well,
50.
It's hard to know. And Ellis Sims, nobody knew Ellis Sims was going to have the year he's having at Coventry. And
some felt it, but did he prove? At Sunderland, he did.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, mate, but Ellis Sims came on against Chelsea and scored an equaliser that contributed to us staying up. When he played alongside Damari Gray, he was getting great chances to actually score. But unfortunately, Dice sold Damari Gray, Dice sold Sims.
I was just about to say, nobody predicted that Ellis Sims would have this kind of year because not many people actually got to see the potential in him, and he's been on the brink for a while. Like, give him a chance. At least give him a chance.
Mm-hmm. He was playing Damari Gray out of position while Calvert-Lewin was injured instead of giving Sims an opportunity to play in his actual position. I mean, that I could never quite work out.
It's also the case as well that we do play players out of position. We have had a history of having a glut and a shortage in various different things, but sometimes it's the case of you put somebody in a high pressure environment like a Premier League fixture, and they're forged in that fire. They become a better player, and it may well be potentially. I mean, you never know, because Wormy's saying Ellis Sims is trash. May well be the case. It may well be that he'd have actually been a scrappier player. He might have been, more productive than Neil Maupay. Wouldn't have been a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, Jan, or I was just about to say there, something I said in the previous video, sorry. I hate to say it, but the thing I watched about Ellis Sims in that game against Wolves in the FA Cup the other day, he has composure where Calvert-Lewin doesn't. Beto, he lacks composure as well, whereas I feel like with Beto, it's like, it's slightly, shall we say... he's aggressive, but he's not quite as composed in the box as what I've seen from Ellis Sims. Look at that assist that Ellis Sims got for Coventry against Wolves. Look at the look at the goals he scored as well. One of them you could argue was probably a handball, but in fairness, he's there in that position to put the ball in the net. When you look at Calvert-Lewin making runs into the box, he has to lunge his entire body at the ball because he cannot time his attack and run properly. And that's why he never gets on the end of enough chances. It doesn't matter if McNeil and Harrison aren't creating them. When they do create it, what is he actually doing? I mean, honestly, oh my God, no, sorry, Wormy, I can see your comment there, mate. Mate, if you're rating Rondon, mate, sorry, honestly, don't bring that guy's name up. I hate that man. I didn't like that we signed him. He was overweight. He was unfit for the Premier League. And more importantly, the one reason why I hated him more than anything is because he snapped one of our best players in Jimmy McCarthy. And I will never fucking forgive that fat fuck for that.
Oh,
Honestly,
yeah, we're talking the red card in particular, huh? That one.
Sometimes, unfortunately,
don't
I have
mention
to be
him
the
to me
Mr.
again.
I have to be Mr. Admin sometimes. Sorry, we've got Chloe's just waiting in the wings, Peter, and she's having some technicals. So, but she'd like to come on, mate. You are always welcome on. So do appreciate
mate, I love it. Yeah. Love it, mate.
Yeah, cheers, Peter.
All right, no worries. See you next time.
Just chill. Have a Oh.
I'm gonna eat something.
It'll be okay.
So, yeah, I'll chill.
I think.
I'll chill. I'll eat something. Yeah. No, mate. I've got to have a shave anyway. I'm busy tomorrow. So anyway, I'll see you next time.
Okay. See ya.
See you, Peter.
So,
well, we're all a
Chloe.
happy bunch, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This conversation has taken some weird turns. I will say that.
Now we have a regular person who is a viewer of the Follow Everton streams and channels, and has been on, who is a little bit shy, no camera, but would like to say a few things. So we would like to welcome Chloe. You are more than welcome, and welcome.
Hello.
Hello, Chloe. Can you hear us okay?
Aye. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Aye. Sorry about that. Wee bit nervous.
It's okay.
No reason to be
think of
nervous.
it like
Think
of it like a group call. Yeah.
Aye. All right. I'm just a wee bit gutted. I mean, you've got obviously Forest have got 4 points, and I'm quite frustrated because I'm sitting at home and I'm thinking, if anything's going to happen, it'll be someone to show it's not just us getting points deducted.
But you think we're going to get these deductions, and then it's like, oh, okay, excellent. They're looking at Forest, which we were saying at the same time, and Forest one of the teams that brought it against us. And then it seems like no matter what happens, it's going to be the second penalty for us. So, and then it seems to cover some of the same years. So I just figure, like, where are they going to stop? Is it going to extend to Chelsea and Man City? Is that what I mean? Would you want it to see it go that far?
I quite like Man City. I mean, it's not ideal, but I would like to see some of their points taken away too.
But I mean, like, how would that? I mean, there's even the calls for Leicester, coming up and stuff. So, do you think that would? How would you feel about Leicester? I mean, do you think that would you have any other alternative or solution to this whole thing that seems to have started the ball rolling to affect promotion and relegation and everything, and even champions at the other end of the table? Do you have any ideas? What would you ideally want to see?
Personally, I think we shouldn't have obviously started, and now all of this has started because of Everton, and then we've got no other choice. So I think it's just an unfortunate situation. I think they're going to obviously start the ball rolling, as you said, and then with Leicester and Man City, and then what point does it stop?
You make a good point, Chloe.
Mm-hmm.
With Liverpool crowned champions eternal.
But I don't want Man City to get their points taken off for obvious reasons.
Yeah. I mean, what is it going to be retroactively done? When do they apply? When do they decide that the points deductions are applied? I mean, why not try to retrospectively apply them to that season and impose sanctions that are relevant if you can't? I don't know.
Well, I've got a season ticket. I'm fed up. I mean, I'm going to these games and I'm just thinking, what am I bothering for if we're just going to get these points taken away? And I think if we can do, last season, get these points taken off, then it's just going to be a whole mix-up match-up, and it'll be an absolute shit show if I'm honest. And what points do we get to then? Who do we trust?
Trust no one.
Aye.
And when it's all subjective, Chloe, anything can happen. And
Chloe-
Jan is getting fired up.
Yeah.
Trust
Oh.
no one.
Well, I think we just get rid of that bloody Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah.
So,
Apologies,
Chloe, would you like to see Beto up front?
Listen, I think if anyone can just bloody get a goal in there and get our points back up, then I'm happy days.
Somebody who can actually smash a goal in from 10, 15, 20 yards. That's
Yeah, anyone that, doesn't just try and header everything in and is a bit obvious. People can see where he's going.
right.
I'm just imagining him swimming on the grass to head the ball.
Aye.
I mean, Chloe, Peter wasn't a Dyche fan. Where do you stand on Sean Dyche?
To be honest, I like him, I love him, but I also hate him. He's like that uncle who just gets drunk every Christmas. Like, thanks for the presents, but the shite. Let's have a laugh.
Speaking of Christmas trips, would you like to go to Portugal on Christmas, or where's your favorite place to go visit?
Ireland.
Ireland.
Nah, probably Spain somewhere, maybe Mallorca.
Okay.
Right. They couldn't go too far because of jet lag and time differences and stuff like that, and the whole long haul flight of professional athletes and the change in performance. Portugal is one of those places that I suppose is like the nicest in Europe if you're going to go. It's like Portugal, Greece, where else could you go? Like Sardinia, Corsica, somewhere.
You go to Crete and you're like, do they have a flat enough area to make a pitch?
Guys, I've got to go. But thanks for having me on the show.
No, you're welcome anytime, Chloe.
Yeah.
Chloe, you were
Take care,
great.
Chloe.
Thank you.
Oh, bye, guys.
See you at the next home game. Well, we do love, I was going to say, obviously Chloe had to go. I was going to say when she was talking about DCL jumping up and making it obvious, she's got a point to a certain extent, and I think that's why we've seen a sort of change. It's been a bit more exciting when we played DCL and Beto because there was a second player. Do you know what I mean? There was a second player who could take those balls that DCL was playing around, and he wasn't just purely isolated because we don't see enough of DCL doing. He does have nice close control to an extent. He can hold the ball up, but he doesn't do the smart little efficient things that surprisingly Duncan Ferguson did. For a big tall guy, he moved the ball beautifully. Okay, I'm going to throw that out there.
Yeah, and I talk about the confidence with the pirouettes and this kind of thing that DCL can do at times, and he did an excellent goal against. It was when we beat West Ham 3-0 last year, and it felt like everything was right in the world for one home match. Like those kind of periods, he can do it, but not consistently. It's like he's wearing a restrictive compression sock around his body and just doesn't move right or something, so he doesn't get injured. I don't know what it is.
He doesn't have people. He doesn't have the Richarlison doing the hard work for him next to him. He's lost his mate, Calvert-Lewin. He lost Jagielka, who was the Sheffield link.
Mm-hmm.
So it may well be. I feel that in some ways we are a lot of isolated, fractured, not just cliques within the club, but within the squad, but within the whole club. Because I think I don't know if it was Peter or another regular. Sorry for not naming you if it was your comment, who said before about we've got an interim board, we don't have a CEO, we don't have we've.
Yeah. Is an amalgamation of multiple directors of football, multiple managers. There's not a singular vision and a singular thread that connects everyone. So what we're left with is a disconnected team out on the pitch, and they play like that.
Yeah. Now, speaking of disconnected, so I would say, speaking of disconnected and the challenges of handling such turmoils, we do actually have a really special guest here from coming all the way from Sheffield is Paul Higginbottom.
You know, you
Hello,
get me
Paul. You
mixed up.
there?
You're getting me mixed up, son. It's not that Paul Higginbottom. It's a different Paul.
Oh, my apologies.
I just think, you know, it's an absolute fucking disgrace today. You know, you cannot have one team with a 4-point deduction and another team with a 6-point deduction. Who's making this up? You know, I'm completely furious. I'm actually going to write in and have words with the guys there and sort this shit out because it's unacceptable, lads. I don't know what you think.
Oh, handling the frustrations over, and I've been kind of trying to handle the emotions of it, Paul, for hours, and I was upset, disappointed, going, how could it happen? Give me an explanation. You read the explanation, and you go, well, that's all we're gonna get for now. But
Yeah,
it's just really been a deflating feeling. But if those that do want to go to Stockley Park to make some to make a stink out of it. Wow, I think I really encourage those that have that emotion right now. A lot of us in Merseyside don't, or even across the Atlantic, like Chad and I. If someone's willing to do the hard yard right now, credit to you.
I mean, the thing that stopped me from, you know, writing a poem about it, or just expressing my emotion is just all I feel at the moment is this I wouldn't say it's entirely uncontrollable, but it's just this rage that I can put a lid on it at a certain point, and then I just go, fuck off, and then and just leave, and I'll stop midway through an article or a conversation. Anyone else in the comments doing this at the moment? You could be in like a group chat, like we're in the Follow Everton group chat, or be talking to Ryan or another mate or a best friend or someone that I take to the football, or even a friend that I'm in a band with.
Sorry, I don't quite. You're drinking it. I'm trying to see what I'm trying to see.
Okay, mate. No, I'm just saying, it's like the pure rage. It doesn't make sense. You were like, okay, you want to write in and talk about like 4 points to 6 points.
Can I just jump in here? So
Yeah.
your gut problem. You know, you're saying the baseline is 6 points, yeah. And then what you're doing, you're letting one team off with 4 points. You're making it up as you go along. You can't have two people commit a speed offence doing 40 and a 30, you know, and one person gets a £50 fine and the other person on the same road gets a £90 fine. Come on. It's an absolute farce. And the result is the same. And I'm not happy. I've been supporting Everton for 47 years, and I have never witnessed this.
No. Well, we witnessed it almost in the 90s. I strongly suspect. Do you have a middle name?
No, Jan. Not in the 90s. There was no points deduction. The whole thing now is designed to stop anyone trying to compete. What is the point? Why are you wasting your time talking about this fucking shit football club and all the other bollocks, claptrap nonsense that comes out of your bumhole? Because you cannot be wasting so much time talking about this club. It's a waste, it's a drain, and you know, there's better things to be doing on your Saturday night, which is why I gave my season ticket up. And you know what? I don't want to be going watching these players again. And I'm very much dish out.
I have suspicions that Paul is not necessarily Paul, but I don't want to be offensive. Okay, you guys, are you where do you stand on the line of dice in or out?
I don't quite understand what you're saying. Paul is not Paul. Sorry, I'm offended. I'm leaving. I'm not happy about that. I'm sorry. You cannot say such things. I'm unsubscribing. Goodbye. I'm going to go watch that Duffy TV.
Bye, Paul.
Paul, come back.
See,
Don't do it, Paul.
99.9%, I'm like, that's Ryan, right? But if I say it's Ryan and it's not, it's really offensive to someone.
Oh. Now, a slight reorganization of this, and as a thank you, Gary, I appreciate you coming on the show, and you became an official YouTube member. So, thank you a great deal, and happy to have you on. So, and he did actually bring up a good point, and I know we've talked about this previously, but I think this is where I responded to him in the chat. He said dream manager, but to me, what I think the real thing would be is, okay, we have to eat dice until the end of this season, maybe until the contract is up. Would you actually go with Bielsa or someone like that who actually wanted to develop the youth? Because that was really pleasing to see, but we're never in a position to go from scratch. Would you take someone like Bielsa if we knew we were safe and started a new season?
What are the resources? Like what?
Yeah.
There's so many. That's such a loaded question because in
loaded
many
with-
ways suited for our current situation, or at least he was. Like everybody wants. Are we going to be able to get the kind of players in that can play his style of football? So.
Yeah,
I don't know the answer to that.
Do we need? And that's where when I tried to be, I guess it was more loaded by the way I said it. But if you say we need Dyche's contract to expire before we looked elsewhere, so we don't have to activate the sacking clause, for lack of a better word, what you'd almost want to do is clear out all the go to the new stadium, have the new ownership in place, and then they pick their first candidate, and then you'd go from there. But until then, we're kind of in a holding pattern.
Okay, maybe I shy away from saying it, and I don't know how you guys see it. And I'm so proud of being an Evertonian for the Former Players Foundation, for the Everton in the community, for all the fantastic work that Everton do outside of football, and knowing how integral they are to people's lives and what that means and what being a football supporter in the city. But when it comes to the cutthroat business of the bottom line, success, progression, growth, competition, victory, to vanquish opposition, we're not cutthroat enough. We're not. We don't have the financial or the business nous. We don't seem to have the connections, and we are not ruthless enough. We take on players, Dele Alli, and Damari Gray, and Van der Meyde, and Royston Drenthe, and all these players. I'd list them. These are just Roy off the top of my head, who have problems, who are what we can rehabilitate them, we can help them, and to a certain extent, yes, be nice, but you don't get anywhere by being nice. And look at
Yeah,
was feckless, and
you want a failed prospect, you need to get a lot of them, so one works. Don't bank on one of them to work out. You're rolling the dice. Looks like we have a technical team member. How's it going, Ryan?
Yeah, it's going well. Thank you for letting me come on. Chad, I don't know if you want to drop out now. I think you had something to do.
Yeah, I'll just leave. I'll leave you with this. I had mentioned it's either one of two things where the Premier League are trying to get our club, or it's just sheer incompetence. I have to believe it's sheer incompetence, only because if anybody was going to be so deliberate and purposeful as to try to hurt our club and get it relegated, you would do it in a much smarter way than what we've seen. We've seen just this entire process handled so poorly and so stupidly that that the leadership over in the Premier League is not fit for purpose, and come in and fix all of this in the near future. But good seeing you guys. Thank you so much for the wonderful talk, and thank you for Peter and Gary, Chloe, and everybody else. And who was our last guest?
Paul.
Was it Paul?
Paul, wonderful Paul. Yeah, thank you, Paul, for jumping on as well. All right, take care, fellas.
Bye, Chad.
Yeah. Bye.
I do apologize if Paul is still watching. That I seem to accuse him of being Ryan, but Ryan has unfortunately a reputation for coming on in different guises.
Really? With 400 people plus watching?
Yes,
That is the audience.
No, it wasn't me, but I think you might have upset him.
In which case, I am very sorry, because getting messages in the group chat as I'm on here, wondering if it's you. Oh dear. But no, he does. He's basically.
Well. Am I Peter
Well, he made
Duggan,
it.
am I as well?
Sorry.
Am I Chloe and Peter Duggan as well?
No. He makes a very good, valid point, though. Paul said he's surrendered his season ticket. He doesn't go anymore. And
Well,
I mean, do you think it's got to the point where, clearly fans aren't glory hunters, but has it got to the point, do you think, where certain fans will be opting not to renew should we get relegated, or consider not renewing if we don't get relegated and immediately promoted, simply because it's not I missed the Premier League football and it's not the same, but it's almost like there's no hope if there's no plan, if there's no long-term cohesiveness, if there's no if there's no promise, then you're sort of banging your head against a brick wall. Does anyone sort of feel like that? Besides Paul.
Should I speak as a season ticket holder?
Sorry?
Well, I can speak as a season ticket holder and say that if you've got to spend £745 of your hard-earned money to go and watch it, and this season we've played 14 games at home, of which we've won 3, it's working out at around £150 per win, pro rata, maybe a bit more. It's not a good investment of your time financially or emotionally. But with it being a closed shop, if you give up your season ticket, you're not getting one back. And when we go into that new stadium, there will be, it doesn't matter what league we're in or whatever situation we're in, there'll be a lot of buzz around it immediately. So you're not getting your season ticket back. Hold on to your tickets. And if you don't want to go to the game, if you're not up to it, just sell them. Basically, that's what I think a lot of people are doing. They're apathetic. I find it a chore to go. And, I've had a season ticket only 10 years. So I don't know how Paul feels. What was it, 40 odd years or something?
You said 43, 47, 16.
Yeah, this is wild. And look, like from the outside, if I lived in in Liverpool, there's no way I wouldn't want to be involved. And if the going's down, that's the only way to get in. But there's a reason why it's so hard to get in. There's loyalty. And we know, and we have that naive, false hope that we'll get back up. But the reality is, we're an established Premier League side, and until recently, we at least in the Premier League, getting to see good opposition year in, year out. We may not be happy with how we're playing, but there is something to saying if you're a proud Premier League or proud member of a team that's been up here and has that reputation or the history. The problem is the history just feels a bit like looking at the damage that needs to be repaired in Goodison or Old Trafford, and it's it's feeling like it's fading. So the romanticism isn't what it used to be.
Yeah, but the interest is still there. I mean, unfortunately, misery loves company at the moment, and that brings me on to the fact that 433 people are watching this stream. I know I haven't had much involvement, but thank you so much. That's really big numbers. And I know a lot of you are watching on X right now on your phone. That's fine. Don't mind that. But if you take 2 seconds of your time to open the YouTube app on your mobile device or your computer and just type in follow Everton and click subscribe, it's free. And all that does is just help us with the algorithm and things on YouTube. And then you can continue watching us on Twitter, if you prefer, or X moving forward. But there's massive amount of people who are watching us on X at the moment, and that's fine. But obviously, we want to try and grow the subscriber count on this channel. And so you can do that by helping. It'll take literally 2 seconds. I'd appreciate it.
Speaking of an X, sorry.
Before I joined the channel with you guys, and I'll let Jan go in a minute, I found by subscribing, I was able to actually make sure that I got to see the content that was scheduled live. If you're just happening to watch it, you really don't know, and you're just scrolling your phone, they're on. But if you really enjoy the live content, you get to kind of figure out and plan when to watch us, because we do schedule ahead of time. It doesn't always come up on X, but you do see it as a subscriber on YouTube. And that's how I used to do it before I joined the team here.
And the great thing about this channel is you've got people from all sorts of backgrounds. We have Australian Chris, American Chad. We have wonderful guests. We have people from the northwest of England and right down south as well. So, you know, we're not woke, but we just try and represent as many people as we can.
We cover a variety of Everton opinions from a variety of Everton perspectives. Oh, well, that's just saying the same thing twice, isn't it?
Yeah. But, like toties. But we are, because we're all Evertonians, we do have one thing in common. We are always often miserable.
Yes. So for people who are interested, we also have a little Backgate store, and that is followeverton.com/antidepressants. And we have a full range of antidepressants available, including sertraline, citalopram,
Mirtazapine. Yes.
diazepam.
Is there a /Daesh for like a
male pattern baldness?
We also
medication.
We have a cure for baldness, and that is /Robbie Pritchard, /Dave Weston.
I've heard that the cure for baldness is winning Premier League matches.
But you could also go to our evil nemesis site called Don't Follow Everton. That might help you not lose your hair.
Yes.
Or go to followeverton.com/don't use a dodgy box. And for just £60 per month, a one-off payment of £60,
I'm going. I'm leaving. Goodbye. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'll leave.
Send you a fire stick. And,
goodbye, boss. Thank you, everyone.
You're not going with 500 people watching. They want to be entertained. They're here for you, Jan. Give us a poem on the fly.
Have you not been entertained?
What do you mean? Can I go with 500 people watching? If I go in the gents and there's one person watching, I've got a bloody problem.
You need to go to more of the private urinals instead of swinging your willy around.
And this is why you watch Follow Everton, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And
I personally don't think this channel should be about football anymore. It should be documenting the lives of miserable Blue Noses.
I mean, we have a show right now for Tarkovsky and Tarkovsky's wife, so we have to be the alternate content.
Is it like Tarskow's or something? Oh, God, no.
Desperate Tarkowski's? Is that what it's called?
Desperate Blue Noses.
Because I let my wife know about this thing called the Scousebrow, and she had never heard of it before.
Yeah, Jan's got one of them. It's where it grows in the middle.
No, it's not. And I don't.
A Scousebrow?
A Scousebrow's like bloody caterpillars up here, mate.
See, I want to know if we could try and incorporate this phone in through X somehow. So you know how they used to do spaces and you could click join? If we could hook up a feed, a separate feed on Twitter where you could kind of push the sound through, how would that work?
I don't know, but is this really a conversation for live on air? Follow Everton streaming, talking about...
I think you could probably pin it on the next one. And I like Wormy's. I think he's covered it pretty well. But yeah, I'm sure there's a way for next time.
Didn't Jan promise to do a show in his Bills a while back? Yes.
If we won 7-0, then that was.
No, it was if we stayed up.
No, it wasn't.
I swear it was someone had to be flogged, and it wasn't us for not reminding people of subscribing. I think it was 7-0. Well, it was something ridiculously large scoring, and Jan said he'd do something.
Yeah.
Like
Jan,
like
said
the
I'd
first
do
time
it.
I went to Good.
Sorry,
Sorry?
Chris. Sorry, Chris.
I was going to say,
Sorry.
like the first time I
Sorry.
went to Goodison, when I was 2007 with my friend and his dad. That's and I forget the guy's name. I think his name was Ian. Was in the youth development squad. Passed away a couple of years ago. But he was like a relative, and we got to meet all the players. I don't think I got to meet Moyes and a couple others, but I got to meet some of my greats in Cahill, Arteta, and Baines had like just been signed, so he looked like he still had the really short hair. Jagielka hadn't come off the bench yet, so it was like that period. Stubbs was still around. I think Weir may have been there, but like we had a whole bunch of them, and that was a match where we won 7-1 against Roy Keane's Black Cats, and that was the first match against Sunderland. That was the first time I realized I might be short, but these guys aren't that tall. You had Osman, Pienaar, Baines were only like a couple inches taller, but that's all it needed to be too short for the Premier League.
which to me always makes one of the greatest goals I have ever seen at Goodison was the Park End. Ball came forward. Leon Osman jumped right at the edge of the box, beat Vincent Kompany to it, headed the ball over Joe Hart, I think it was, and scored. And he was out on the ground for about 2 minutes, and it was just one of the greatest. How he leapt so high. I love Osman. Sorry.
That's amazing. Yeah. Osman's just these little. He would be perfect for like. He knows how to be diligent on the ball, and he's like what we're needing right now in that final third. Just a little bit of mastery. Can play in the middle, can play wide. We miss him.
As I've said on online, our defense now. If the defense is good because of the shape, then that's a different scenario. But I actually think the defense is good because of the individuals themselves. Yeah, so you've got a couple of outstanding centre halves and a really good goalkeeper, and I think they carry a lot of the defense. But the point I'm making is, if you stuck Leon Osman, Stephen Pienaar, and probably Louis Sahar and Cahill, maybe not Louis Sahar because he was inconsistent, but if you had someone just remotely adequate,
Yelovich.
If you had
1 year, not the next.
3 half-decent players from that 2008 to 2010 era in the front line would be comfortably top 10 because the defense.
Morales.
Kevin.
The defense. The defense is okay. It's just you start reminiscing things, and we did moan back then about them maybe not scoring enough goals or not doing enough, but you don't know what you've got until it's gone.
Yeah, and
all right. Do you need a big yellow taxi?
We moaned about just
to
trying
take
to get
Osman away.
Well, we've gone from trying to break into the top 4 to trying to fight for Europe
to trying to stay in the top half.
Just survival. And that's 3 years straight. And this could be 4 years next year. So 4 years straight of just your only enjoyment is just your existence. It's like saying every day I'm going to wake up. I'm not going to do anything today, but I'm going to have bread and water. So I'm still going to be here the next day. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not that fun. And then you've got Liverpool across the park who find kids in bloody Garston Park and Coldstones Park and pluck them in the first team, and they look like Beckenbauer and Brazilian Ronaldo in their prime. And
they're finding the new Rooneys.
What's going on? We're in Liverpool. It's a football mad city. Why are we not finding actual good youngsters? Why are we not scouting them and saying, look, Liverpool's just got a monopoly on it now? But I'm just saying, that it is misery supporting us. It's quite sad, really. The only enjoyment is the avoidance of misery.
Yeah.
Or it's shows like this where everyone can just unite for a little bit.
Yeah, I think I worried about the summer because I was thinking before you kind of need to sell Branthwaite for 100 million. He's going to go the Euros. He's going to be fantastic, and it'll pain you. It'll be really painful seeing him go, because he'll go to Man City or he'll go to Man United, and he'll be the linchpin for 10 years in the back line.
Or so basically, you have John Stones 2.0, and Man City have 2 Everton players through the spine.
He's going to be the best. He's going to be the best centre back in the country, in my opinion. Because I see shades of Van Dijk in him. He just doesn't seem phased by anything. He just deals with everything. Yeah. You know, he's really good. But you kind of need to sell him to get the money in to pay for the players. But this is what Moshiri did wrong when he first bought the club. Rather than build around these outstanding players and gambling and saying, look, I've got this world-class centre-half.
The Blues have just said that, the Blues to talk about the plucking the kids in the youth academy. The Blues just mentioned there that's what happens when the best talent's willing to join you, and it's not the case for us. So obviously why. But then there are plenty of instances of players wanting to use us. I'd accept us using us as a stepping stone to increase their value or their experience or get playing time. But there's a track record of Liverpool doing that, finding like Torres and Suarez and all these young players that we don't. I mean, when is the last time that we find these players that look like the real deal? Okay, you could say that Anthony Gordon, maybe.
Yeah.
Branthwaite. Branthwaite, we're already talking now about selling him. Gordon, we sold him, and you could say the same for maybe potentially Onana. Right, I'm surprised that Pickford stayed with us. But what happened is 5, 6, 7 over that sort of period of time ago, we started getting a glut of high value players that we had a surplus in, like attacking midfield class and all these players that we never really played in centre. Right, we sold them all off, and then we had a core of like Richarlison, for example, and we slowly hemorrhaged or lost these players. So we were playing on a second string team that we've come to accept as our first string, like Gray and Iwobi, that would have been under the fringes, and now we're lamenting the loss of those. And it's just as Emma said, there's poor everything at Everton.
Yeah. We need a structured replacement. The dip. Yeah, you expect a dip. If you have a structured replacement to bring someone in, and it's a transition year in a position, you can take it. Right now, we're not having a transition, we're just patching without a plan.
We miss Iwobi, we miss Richarlison, we had Anthony Gordon. That front three would have us comfortably competing for Europe with this defence. But I've completely forgotten my next point.
Well, crying out loud, at this rate, we even missed the actual passion to play for the shirt that was Tom Davies. I mean, Christ, I like the lad as a human being, but he was he was happy being a squad player. But what I'm saying is we missed
Gylfi Sigurdsson. Hang on, this was my point. This is going to come back to it. Don't want to lose it. I've got too many points to juggle in here at once. Our succession plan. We replace the player we've sold with the player we sold. Hang on. We sold Gay. We replaced him with Gay. We sold Ross Barkley. We bought Gylfi Sigurdsson. And now we're going to replace Gylfi Sigurdsson, I've got on good authority, with Ross Barkley in the summer. We don't plan ahead.
No, but we didn't. We didn't.
I guess to the point you're saying, Ryan, is the strategy at Everton going full circle and changing so frequently that we bring back that player just frequently enough that the philosophy of 6 years ago happens to coincide with now? Because that's what it seems like.
We had the right. I mean, even Davy Klaasen's playing for Inter Milan in the Champions League.
But this is what I mean. Niels and Kunku, like
Adam Malou-Lookman's smashing it for Atalanta.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, I know.
But we got Dele Alli, Jan.
And we're only
the only identifiable policy in terms of player progression, youth recruitment, scouting, and acquisition seems to be to shit in our hands and clap.
Yeah.
Sorry.
or through the pure luck and brilliance of someone doing their own self-development and one smart year of learning Brunthwaite, we're getting rid of one good thing? Because that's the real question then. Is Reece Welsh ready to replace?
Right, and Gary has made a fantastic point here, right? Because he's touching onto it and he's bringing it round. And Yusuf Chamiti is equivalently doing an Ellis Sims sat on the bench, with potential talent from Sporting, and we're not giving him any time.
No,
Sorry, my mouse is cocking.
We sold Ellis Sims because we needed the money with the homegrown, and also he wanted to go and play football. And the way the amortization works is different. So in and out, it just helps with the books. Even though Sims gets in the right place to score. And I don't think we've got that in our forward line. I think Calvert-Lewin's always pinning himself against the centre half and they're not being evasive. They're not getting between them. They're not getting away from the marker. They're not getting in front of a defender. They're not getting in the right position, but then we don't cross the ball from the right areas. Sorry, I know I'm talking about style of play there and I can go off on a tangent. I've got a lot to say about the attacking style of play and how we're not effective and why we're not effective and how we can change that. Danch isn't watching the stream, but I know exactly. Just talking about next season, because Emma's just mentioned about that. We've got Dan Juma going and Jack Harrison are going, and neither of them will get signed, in my opinion. I don't think either of them have done enough. And I think the club are not stupid enough right now. We're not clever, we're just not stupid. That's what I'd describe us at the moment. Both of them will go. Yes, Jan, that's fine. There's 500 people watching, but you can leave. No, Jan, actually, you can go because we'll wrap up in a moment. But next season, we're losing you're losing your two wingers, and that leaves you with just Dwight McNeil. Okay, that's a real problem. And then you've still got to pay 28 million for Beto, who's unproven, but I think will come good if you just give him a run and just let him develop. He will come good because he's got all the attributes. The fullbacks, you've got three right backs who aren't good enough. Coleman's going to retire at the end of the season, apparently. Patterson's going to leave, probably on loan because his market value won't be high enough to justify a sale. And Ben Godfrey will probably say, look, I've been here a long time. I want to go and play football. He's on a massive contract, Ben Godfrey, over £90,000 a week. So I wonder whether he'll also be a loan purely because the contract is high or whether we'll just end up keeping him and winding him down. I know we held talks with Andre Gomez about his situation next season, but he looks like he's leaving because on a free transfer, he's going to be able to still command wages. He's still got something to offer because a club could afford to pay him 100 grand a week because they're absorbing the fact there's no transfer fee. So you're losing Andre Gomez, who you'd probably ideally like to keep. You've got a situation at right back. You've got a Michael Keane issue where you haven't genuinely got a reliable Premier League centre half. You've got Mikalenko, who for me, he's a really good centre half playing at left back, if that makes sense. He's got really good blocking and his work rate's defensively strong. But I judge by different standards because I've seen proper fullbacks at Everton and now I look at him and think he gets the halfway line and shits his pants. He's just, for me, he's a championship left back. You've got a championship right back. You've got three championship right backs. And so the thing I'm making here is you've got to find two or three wingers as a minimum. And you're looking at three. You've got a striker issue where you don't want to twist because you've committed to Beto. Okay. You can't sell Calvert-Lewin because he's got a year on his contract and you need him to come good and get a new contract. So you've got to
Can I point out something really scary that you haven't touched on and maybe just right? Is if we're really flirting with administration, if we're flirting with further costs or not being able to finance or underwrite or all these kind of things, how realistically can we expect to hold on to an England international number one keeper?
Yeah, I'm going to come to that now. So that leads me on to the next point. So you've got an issue up front where your issue up front, you can't twist. Okay, so you have to stick with them two. Your issue in midfield, you've got to buy some players or find some loans. And then you've got to sign a right back. So you're looking at a right back, wingers, maybe a centre midfielder, maybe a striker. Where's the money coming from? Okay. You want to be keeping Onana. You want to be keeping Branthwaite. We should literally be saying, we will make Onana and Branthwaite on whatever salary they want, and we will build the team around them coming into Bramley Moor. But instead, what we're going to have to do is rip up the floor to put a carpet down. That's a really bad analogy.
Yeah.
Find me a good analogy.
The only one that we're going to keep for the future is going to be James Garner, because he's not good enough for other people to want to buy him, but we think he'll get there. But he's the only one that doesn't have resale value right now. But we basically, to Ryan's point, you have to rip up the infrastructure to fix the foundation to replace with less good pieces. But maybe it's a better distribution. The problem is we are not very good at buying players.
I've got a weird analogy. Your tire bursts on your car. You've got Michelin tires on there, or Continental, okay? And rather than pay for the whole bunch of Continental or Michelin tires, which are the premium AAA tires, you go and get 4 brand new tires that match, but they're budget tires. It's a terrible.
Yeah.
Does it make sense? We're going to have to.
Yeah. You're right. You lower if you're saying in your game of
buy a pair of knickers, but hang on, you're selling your t-shirt to buy a pair of knickers, and then you haven't got a t-shirt.
If you're in the game of FIFA, you would decide, or any of these football managers, you have to get rid of everyone, and then you decide everyone is now anywhere between 18 to 24. They've got 4-year contracts. They'll get there eventually, but they're steady.
Okay, question for you both. You sell Jared Branthwaite for 100 million. He's going to go to the European Championships, and he's going to be brilliant, and he's going to be sold for 100 million. Okay. Amadou Onana is sold for 75 million because he is worth that to the right club. And you've got 175 million. And then Everton's owners put in 25 million. That's what they can invest because we've not spent a bean in years, right?
So 200.
You've got 200 million pounds. Fuck FFP just for 2 seconds. Is 200 million pounds enough to bring in a goal poacher who doesn't need to be good at anything else other than just putting the ball in the net? I'm sure you can have examples of them. They don't do anything outside the box, but they just know where to put the ball.
Yeah.
A goal poacher. Replace Onana, replace Branthwaite, a new right back, and 2 wingers. Is that enough?
Is it possible? Yes. Is it possible for Everton? No, because look at who we recruit. Ashley Young. Sorry.
He was a can't afford it stopgap.
Yeah.
But
he's getting a new deal. We've got a 1-year option on him. Garner Gay and Ashley Young are getting extensions, but Coleman is retiring.
Yeah, we should not be hiring more player coaches.
Do we have to pay him in 100% wages, or can we deduct from his wages the retirement home?
Look
like,
how much contract.
Oh, it's amortization. Yeah, and he's a bit older.
Look how many contracts are expiring at the end of the summer. There's no one left.
No, this is why I was purposefully avoiding all these misery. Goodbye. Right. On that note, the savior is going to be Andre Gomez, because I love the guy and I hate the fact that his career was the trajectory of it was completely changed by Son's tackle, and he had a real languid, fluid beauty to his style of play, and I just want him to rescue us, please.
He could never run or tackle, though, could he? He had someone alongside him who did all that.
So I think Emma's bringing up a part of the conversation, irrespective of association. I think we haven't been able to. What's your thought? Can Thelwell actually make better decisions than we've done previously? Or do you not trust him at this point?
I don't like Kevin Thelwell. Name me one player he signed in the summer that's proven to be a success.
Didn't he get Onana 2 years ago? Oh, okay. This year, no. And I think that's this year he's been who have we got this year?
Well,
we have Harrison.
He's had his hands tied and bound by financials,
because when you think we got Beto in a very clever deal that we haven't had to commit to.
Clever for them.
But do we have to spend 30 mil next year, or can we give it back to him? There's an obligation.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Your car or your house, your car's worth £5,000. I have no money. I have no money right now, but in a year I'll give you 10 grand for that car. But it's a $5,000 car. It's a
Okay,
$5,000
so it was
car.
the loan with the obligation to buy. Yeah.
Will you let me have your
I forgot
car,
the
which
deal.
is worth $5,000? Barely runs, and I'll give you 10 grand. But I'll give you 10 grand next year. I'll sign a contract, legally binding, and I'll take the car now. You'd fucking snap my hand off and go, I'm getting $5,000 extra for this car, and go and buy yourself a car. And that's what they've done, and left us with Beto, who's got 2 goals. He looks like half the time he looks like he's just still behind a deep fat fryer in KFC.
Yeah.
But actually, if you coach this guy, he could be incredible.
Because I remember when we got Beto, how excited we were that we were raving at hey, we don't have any money and we deferred for a year to get past this FFP window. And now the second he isn't delivering, it was a terrible idea. So that's one where it's a little bit tricky to me because I remember feeling, and I think you were even had that confidence at the beginning, Ryan, that this was the right call. And then lack of success has backfired. And then it's a question, is Dyche not utilizing these players stunting Thelwell? Is Thelwell and Dyche on the same page? That there's all that piece of it too.
So Chris, in your job, okay, you're a gemstone guy. Well, not gemstone, but
Stop with the analogies, Ryan.
If I said to you, you only come in once a week to do your job, are you going to be as good at your job as if you're doing a full time there, surrounded by the environment?
It depends.
If I say
a 4-day work week versus never taking a day off versus working once a week, there's a balance, and he is not getting the right balance. No,
you can't expect him to come in. And if you look at the games he's played, he's just came in for 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Always when we're chasing the game, always when it's completely out of sync. And really, you want to see him 10 matches, starting every match with a clear objective, which is.
Yeah,
and also I am blaming Sean Dyche, and I'm blaming Dyche because a lot of people are refusing to say anything. But under Ancelotti, he had an objective, and that was to get in the box in the 6-yard area and finish. And now he's insistent on having. And you can argue, okay, yes.
What you want about DCL getting in the 6-yard box and finish?
All of the strikers are not getting in the right areas to score. And when they do, they panic because they hardly get there.
It seems reductive, and there are other factors in this, but the biggest difference in that can be put into one simple reason: Richarlison. The difference for me in that regard can be, obviously you can have replacement players, but what I'm saying is there's nobody doing what he did. Nobody running in behind, being a menace, holding the ball up. We don't have anybody doing that.
Charlison can do everything. He had everything.
Doucouré had a brief period when he wasn't as injured that he was doing something like it, not the same, but he was our recent version of someone like that, but to the same standard, no.
Calvert-Lewin had Gylfi Sigurdsson feeding him. He had Richarlison feeding him. He had James Rodriguez at times feeding him. He had Luca Dean feeding him. And he just got told, stay in that area and finish off the chances for us because you've got the athleticism to head it in. You've got the long legs and you can anticipate it because you're athletically in better shape than the centre-halves. Now, because we don't have the creative players buzzing around and that style of play, the front foot style, you get to the byline and whip it back, or your movements and all this sort of stuff. You look at Man City, the way they play, and then you look at Man United, they try and get in behind the fullbacks into that pockets of space. Yeah. We're not doing those things anymore to then get into good areas to create quality chances. So Calvert-Lewin's asked, I need you to stand on that opposition centre-half, bring the ball down. You've got no one near you. Wait 5 minutes on your own for some slow coach to come and support you who's got nothing about him to beat a man or run past him. And then you're exposing him and he looks awful. You'd look awful. I play saxophone professionally, but if you gave me a trombone, I wouldn't have a fucking clue where to start with it. Do you know what I mean?
Just to answer a question from one of our viewers here. Rod Ross has asked, would Barlow get in this team? Yes, Ken.
Tracy bloody Barlow. 500 viewers watching. Brilliant. Thank you, Blue Cali. Appreciate that.
So, Ryan, to I don't know how much of a tangent this is going to be, but when I watch the matches, and I've done the watch alongs now, it's really obvious. The second we win the ball back, it's almost like our men of jumping. Like you talk Saving Private Ryan going to Omaha Beach, and there's just like how do we get from Branthwaite wins the ball to get to the wing fast enough to release it to Calvert-Lewin? That is the problem that we have.
Okay.
Either we have to run through the middle, and
because we don't have players that are switched on enough to know. We don't have players that are switched on enough that are already moving into a space. We don't have players that are switched on enough with the ball to know to play the ball into the space ahead of that player. You know,
or
it's always
overhit,
constantly
mistimed runs, offsides.
Some of the
There's a lot
play
of
we
that.
quite neat and nice, but from a tactical point of view, and you could really break this down. You talk about the long ball, but they're still very spread out. If you're playing the long ball into Calvert-Lewin, why have you not got, say, 2-3 players off him for that second ball? And then maybe someone really smart. So let's just say Pickford takes a goal kick, pings it to the left touch line. Calvert-Lewin's there. And you've got Decore, Onana, and everyone squeezed up waiting for that second ball. But then you might have a right winger or a right fullback hugging that other side, waiting for that space, so that when the ball's knocked down, there's someone who can spread the play and get a 1v1 situation against the fullback. Everything is very predictable. You've got fullbacks that don't go bombing on, and this is why Jack Harrison looks so poor. Jack Harrison gets the ball with his back to goal, with a centre, with a fullback up his backside, and then he's got no fullback running on beyond him to take the opposition defense. So he's normally got 2 players on it. Then he's running he's left-footed, so he's coming in off the right, running into a blind alley in the midfield where the CDM and the centre halves are, and then there's no movement. So I think,
and that's where Patterson needs to be the outside option.
Yes, Dyche has become very predictable. I'd be changing it to a back 5, bringing Godfrey into the middle, putting Patterson on the right, and maybe tucking McNeil and Decore in behind Calvert-Lewin.
Right, guys, I'm going to have to make a move, if that's all right. You please do carry on. But just before I go, I do want to point out that while I'm still here, it seems rather appropriate that that an acronym or the initials of our names spell out the word cry.
Acri?
Well,
cry. Love it.
Yeah.
Jan, have you got a message for the Everton's follow Everton's record numbers of viewers?
Thank you very much for sharing in our misery. I do feel like the burden has been lifted. Yes, onwards and upwards. See you. Good. No, I don't. I'm just going to go off and incoherently mumble to myself in the dark about how terrible it is. Thank you.
Thanks, Jan.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for putting up with me. Thank you for coming over. And yeah,
Jan.
I will see you soon.
Bye, Jan.
Oh,
He's back.
bye. No,
Nothing.
Bye, Jan.
Nothing like saying goodbye, and he's not allowed to leave. Yeah.
and also Peter Duggan talked about before the piss off. We were talking about the Derby game coming up, and a disallowed goal, and Don Hutchinson, when Vesterveld, I think it was, kicked it against him, went back in. Yeah. And I believe, who was the referee? Paul or something. And he said, and he said, "Oh, I blew up because it already went in." And then there were people arguing about, "Oh, well, it wasn't 10 yards." I'm sorry, if the person who's taking it chooses to take it, and the defender is not 10 yards away, they can choose to do that, especially when it's not a direct free kick. So, yeah, never mind. Tatty, bye. Leave me alone.
Again? He should just press backspace and get out of here. There he goes.
It's been a bit random the last 10 minutes.
No,
Chris,
you're good.
can I just say on behalf of everyone, you've really excelled in the role as co-host of this channel and co-organizer. So thank you so much. Brilliant. I like the top. I like the mic.
Yeah.
You've got the clearest picture, and you organise the streams. It's blossoming. So can we get a big thumbs up for Chris Litchi? Lychee, sorry. It's Lychee. Is it Lychee?
Yeah. Yeah.
And just let's just prompt people one more time. Look, come on, there's 500 people watching this. Most of you are on X. Please do us a favor. And if 10% of you come over to youtube.com/follow Everton, or just go on your YouTube app on your phone now and literally search for Follow Everton and click subscribe. You can go back on X and watch us, but please help us boost the subs because we're putting this content out. We had a stream before with the Everton Scouts, Daz, Robbie and Wes, and then we've just had Aussie Chris, Chad and Jan are doing some fantastic content. Please support us.
And I think something to think about as well is I know, like, say, Toffee TV and some of these others, they end up doing a lot of stuff early in the morning. And if you're here at night, we're doing the live content in the evenings a whole lot. So it's a very different kind of medium. And I think it's also it's professional, but we can have some fun interactions here and we can go technical. We can have a laugh and we take ourselves seriously, but not so seriously that we can't make it feel welcoming for you guys. And I appreciate everyone that talks in the comments and Peter and everyone else that wants to jump on. Chloe, who was it? Who else did the phone in? Do you remember, Ryan? We had Paul and so I need to work on that scout. And I suppose I do. I need to first I think I need to find some good lob scouts in rural Arizona. That might be tough.
Thank you, Gary, as well for becoming a VIP. That's quite easy to do.
And Gary was our first caller. First time calling in.
I'll WhatsApp that. If you want to become a VIP, you go to youtube.com/follow Everton and /join, or click the join button. Only works on browser or desktop. And there's one option there which is £1 a month, and there's another which is £3 a month. Why are we asking for this? Well, it goes into a fund that helps us pay for the stream, the cost to host the stream, the cost for the equipment and stuff. So, it's just giving something back. We're not actually charging you to watch us. It's just something you do. Oh, you get a nice little Everton badge next to your name in the comments on YouTube. We can't see that, but you in the YouTube chat can see that. And every month that you're a subscriber, you get a new badge. So you'll have Everton, and then you'll have the 1970 crest, and then you'll have the original crest. And yeah, it's pretty slick.
And eventually you'll get all the Pokemon badges you've ever wanted.
Yeah. From the Kanto region. So I think we will call it here, but I know I'm slightly lagging with my setup, and recently I haven't been as involved as much. I'm up in the air, and just to kind of show you what I'm referring to, not that people really care. Triple back camera. I'm currently living in a building site. So I don't know if you saw that. Did you see that? Did that work?
I saw it. I'm not sure if everyone else did.
Yeah. So as soon as things are back to normal, I'll be in a proper studio with green screen, headset mic, and all the bits. So just be patient.
Yeah. And a functioning microwave there, Ryan.
Oh, don't ask. It's got a built-in oven, that microwave. It's not just a microwave. So sometimes I use it if I don't want to preheat the other oven, and yeah, I've got no turntable, so it's depressing. Okay, should we leave it there?
I think so. I can.
You've got something else you want to say on your own?
I think that's good. 2 hours of venting about something that I've been thinking about all day, and now it's just like it's out of the system, I think, for now. So wait until 777 news, and I'm sure we'll have something else come up, huh?
Just smile, because you've got to laugh that they got 4 points and we got 6. It's absolutely laughable. You've got 2 crimes, one's worse than the other, and they get off with it. It's just hilarious. And I think Everton will have.
And you saw this too, did you see this one, Ryan? I think I brought this up before. This is something you can always also look back to. I thought this was a hilarious link to like how ambiguous the decision was.
I need to read it back, Chris. I'm on my phone.
Yeah, but that was really interesting. That was an Echo quote on it, and it was so ambiguous. The decisions, like why they made it, it was so subjective. And you go, no wonder it's hard to know how they're running it. But there is a problem that if you tell someone this is how to cheat, they'll find a way. Coffee Tower.
Yeah, if you tell someone else cheat to find a way. I think we need to invest big and take another risk.
Invest big. Oh, so we go into, as long as we're not getting was it 9
Play
points
it
for administration?
safe. Play it safe and do nothing. Do not spend. Do not enjoy football. It's all about money. Oh, unless it's a Saturday 3:00 kickoff. That's about protecting football heritage.
Don't invest in cold weather gear unless you die.
United. Come on,
That was
you Reds. We
was-
beat them.
It was a one positive, wasn't it? Quite a good
Yeah.
match, honestly. So,
Delighted.
all right, shall we call it?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, everyone.